Seçimler hakkında konuşacağız, bekle. Ananın amına oy verdim. Orospu çocuğu. Bak ya, reis geliyor diye yazıyor salak chatte. Kesin Almanya'da yaşıyor bu Türk. Var ya, %100 yani. Türkiye'den böyle yazma ihtimali yok yani bu orospu çocuğu. Almanya'da yaşıyor. Kreuzberg'de. Ondan sonra konuşuyor oradan amcık ağızlı. O geleceğiz abi. Geleceğiz abi, reise oy verdik. Geleceğiz abi, ondan sonra Antalya'da amına koyacağız. 26 milyon oy verdi. Nasıl yok ya, çıldıracağım. Oğlum orada orada Erdoğan'a oy veren Kezban buraya Twitch'e mi geliyor amına koyayım? Salak salak konuşmayın. Burada diyorum. Bu space'te genel olarak herkes anti Erdoğan yani. Saçma sapan konuşmayın abi. Evet. Evet, Adıyaman'da yaşayan herif burada Adıyaman'da yaşayan 36 yaşında 36 değil 46 yaşında kahvehane işleten adam burada Twitch'e giriyor. Hasan abi diye yazıyor. Ondan sonra ananı sikeyim reis geliyor. Orospu çocuğu diye yazıyor değil mi chatte? Salak mısınız oğlum? Allah Allah. Hayır. Buraya gelen heriflerin büyük çoğunluğu senin gibi adamlar işte. Genç. Erdoğan'ı sevmeyen daha sola yakın olan sosyal demokrat adamlar yani. Is it true that Erdoğan wants to force women into wearing hijabs? No, that's... I could not believe the vote ratio of Erdoğan from the earthquake affected area. Mind-boggling. Yeah. Brother. I mean, why do you think people in West Virginia vote solidly red? It's the exact same thing. It's the exact same principle. It's the exact same fucking thing. All right, we're going to talk about that. It's literally identical, dude. Do you believe the results to be legit? Yes. Yeah. Turkish elections are not fair, but I guess technically quote unquote free. A lot more free than you would expect them to be. In the sense that like the votes are real. There's some fuckery every now and then, but the votes are real. Everyone will tell you that. Whereas it's not fair at all in the sense that, you know, the opposition will go to jail or Erdoğan will do a gigantic fucking news conference like where he does like a town hall by himself on every fucking platform 2 nights before the election. Like the media is overwhelmingly pro Erdoğan. They have to be, but they also are pieces of shit too. So it's not exactly fair in that sense. Like here, this is the state broadcaster, okay? TRT is the state broadcaster, TRT. In 1 month leading up to the election, Erdoğan had 32 hours of coverage. Kılıçdaroğlu, who is the opposition leader, 32 minutes. Okay? Like, it's fucking ridiculous. And that's just the state broadcaster. You would say, oh, of course that's going to be that way. You know what I mean? Of course that's gonna, you know, this it's the state broadcasters doing state propaganda. It's like, yeah, except the entirety of like privately owned news media is also pro Erdoğan. They own everything. Do CHP not have money? Brother, it doesn't work that way. In Turkey, whoever is the leader, okay, whoever is like the party, will basically put his own cadre of like aristocrats in positions of power and offer them a tremendous amount of favorable contracts and give them a shitload of money. It's the same in most countries. The only difference is that in America, both parties basically are abiding by the exact same masters, capitalism. So there's no like, any kind of like ideological difference there. And in Turkey, you could say that the ideological difference is not that severe either. But it's certainly a little bit more, it's a little different than America in the sense that like civil liberties do get pretty aggressively rolled back over the course of like a 20-year regime where Erdoğan has been able to also successfully manipulate the public into voting for a referendum and change the constitution of the Turkey from a parliamentary system to a presidential one. You know what I mean? Like, saçma salak konuşma, intihar sikerim ha. Allah Allah. Anyway. I know, depreme kader diyen adam %70 deprem bölgesinde. Yeah. He got 70 to 79% of all votes from the areas impacted by the earthquake. Great infographic on Erdoğan's patronage system and media empire. Oh, this is really good. Yep. You have holding groups. And holding groups that also have, like, literally companies that are involved in construction. All that come back to, like, one fucking rich family, right? It's like a chaebol system almost. They also own their own media giants. They also own their own media empires. And every single one of them is pro-Erdoğan. Like, aggressively so. Abi 1 milyon geçer soy var, adam koskoca dikdörtgeni tutturamıyor. Biz bu mallara ne yapacağız ya artık? So it's an oligarchy. Yeah, but okay, so it's a little bit different. Okay, it's a little bit different. Okay, let me explain to you like how countries outside of like the Western, the Western sphere of influence and power operate. In the Western sphere of influence and power, no matter what the government is, it doesn't really matter all that much. It's usually going to be, a lifeless, faceless, pro-corporate structure, no matter what happens, right? And both, like, ideologically speaking, everyone's a neoliberal, everyone's eating good, right? It doesn't matter if the Republicans are in power, it doesn't matter if the Democrats are in power. But of course, the Republicans will, like, fuck stuff up. And I don't know, like promote culture war issues, wedge issues, things of that nature, right? In a country like Turkey, however, there are actually winners and losers, right? Like in the corporate structure, obviously corporations are still king. Obviously, there's a lot of capitalism, where regardless of the system of governance, there are ideological differences between certain party leadership. But more importantly than that, when they come into power, they basically use the entire government coffers to their advantage. Like they use the treasury like it's their own personal purse, greatly beefing up their own wealth and also solidifying their system of support by bringing up other wealthy people or other business owners into this increasingly more monopolized system of both sphere of influence and also way of producing commodities. So it works a little bit in the opposite direction. So, like when Erdoğan won originally, like he brought his own people that are ideologically motivated to be on his side into positions of prominence and gave them incredible contracts, gave them favorable contracts, deregulated specifically, and also even bullied the competing companies in that industry, bully them out of the fucking, bully them out of the marketplace. Basically made it untenable for them to not be pro-Erdoğan. So of course, all of the oligarchs in Turkey were brought to heel. They all became pro-Erdoğan. Okay, and in that process, like the mafia, he's also getting a cut from the contracts. He's putting his children also in positions of power in these companies inside of this corporate structure. That's basically how that works in Turkey. It's a little bit different than America in that regard, where it's more transparent, it's more corrupt openly, You know what I mean? Whereas like corruption is built into the system in the United States of America. I always use this example where bribery in Pakistan is seen as like this barbaric tradition, right? Whereas we have something very different here in the West. We have corporate lobbying. Corporate lobbying is regulated, it's legal, and therefore it's somehow different than bribery. It's not. It's not different than bribery. It's the same shit. We just have a different name for it. And we like to act like here in the West that we are above that kind of thing when we're absolutely not above that kind of thing. And in countries that are not as developed or not inside of the Western, not directly inside of the Western sphere of influence, you see that kind of open corruption, whether it be Latin American countries, whether it be Turkey, whether it be fucking, countries in the East, Far East. Like there are very similar structures that are somehow very different, okay, in the way that it operates. Okay, I'm not going to watch the NATO working with fascists to crush the left in Turkey video right now. That's an hour. This is literally 1 hour and 21 minutes, okay? And it's like relatively relevant, but not all that relevant to what we're talking about right now. So we're not going to do that at the moment. So would you consider Erdoğan an Islamist? Hasan abi niye Elon Musk'un FETÖ'cü hesapları susturmasına laf attın? Oğlum kaç senedir amına koyayım yaşıyorsun Türkiye'de? Sadece FETÖ'cü hesapları için mi Elon Musk'a gidiyor? Saçmalama abi, Allah Allah. Yapmayın etmeyin amına koyayım. Biz de FETÖ'cü değiliz ama yani FETÖ'nün götüne koyayım ama yani günün sonunda saçmalama yani. Direkt olarak sadece FETÖ'cülere yapıyoruz. Sadece FETÖ'cülere yapıyoruz. Az siktir lan. Get the fuck out of here. Yapmayın etmeyin oğlum, Allah Allah. Bu yüzden işte zaten Erdoğan kazanıyor amına koyayım. Hala Erdoğan'ın karşısına geçen adamlar bile yine kendileri dönüp diyorlar abi niye FETÖ'cülere aslında saldırıyor bunlar. Cemuzan was the pin that allowed Erdoğan to become dominant in the parliament, but maybe more importantly in media. After Cemuzan lost and he got charged for fraud and racketeering, all his assets were seized. He was a media czar. All those outlets went to Erdoğan's allies on the cheap. That's how Erdoğan got to start. Yeah. Abi FETÖ'yü enlemek önemliydi. Adamlar saçma sapan dezenformasyon yapıyor. Yapma ya. Kim kazandı amına koyayım? Dezenformasyon yaptılar da kim? Saçma salak konuşmayın abi, Allah Allah. Yapmayın arkadaşlar. Ay, salak mısınız? Onlar FETÖ'cüye gidiyoruz diye sizi kandırıyorlar yani. Günün sonunda ne dezenformasyonu yapacaklar? Erdoğan yine amına koydu yani. %50'yi neredeyse yakaladı yani. Okay. But you have to give credit to Erdoğan for reducing the military role. As a Pakistani, I wish someone would reduce the military influence in our country. Yeah. No, totally. Erdoğan definitely reduced the military role. Motherfucker, the only military role he reduced was basically cut through the fucking ranks of Fethullah Gülen supporters. Which, that's it. That's the only valid reduction of military role that he engaged in. And also, he doesn't want to get fucking, he doesn't want to have a coup. So that's part of the reason. But as far as like the military role goes, let's be real. Like the military is still an incredibly prominent force in Turkey. He still utilizes it. Half of the country is like directly controlled by military police, gendarme. Many places, even in big cities outside of like the city limits, are still absolute. Like Turkey, the Turkish military is a really prominent, really important, influential part of Turkish existence in a way that you can't understand here in America. Is Erdogan one of the richest people in Turkey like Putin is in Russia? Yes. Erdogan and Putin and people like that are actually way wealthier than like the fucking billionaires that you see on the Forbes list, okay? But yes, of course they are. They are insane. Dude, they have the entire country's treasury, the entire country's purse as their own personal purse, okay? That level of wealth and power is unimaginable. No, not like Trump. Trump is, brother, if you think Trump is anywhere near as fucking wealthy as Erdogan or Putin, you're delusional. Trump, does he even have $5 million to pay E.G. and Carol? Like, I don't think Trump has shit. Trump is a fucking broke boy, dude. These people are the real fucking power brokers and the real wealthy people. He removed the Kemalist elements from the military with the help of Gülenist. After the coup, he then got rid of the Gülenists. Now military no longer holds political influence. There really isn't a way to make an argument that military has a shred of relevance it once had. I mean, I agree with that. I just meant like, as far as military activity goes, that chatter was making it seem like Turkey is no longer like weaponizing its military or whatever, or the military doesn't have, the military's political power has been neutered, yes. But the military's power, as far as like the Turkish military goes, is still very much a prominent force, whether it be fucking northern Syria or whether it be anywhere else, really, even domestically. Only thing that increases the jingoism and the authoritarian tendencies among people. Yeah. Oh, for the record, Elon Musk, we're going to be talking about in a second. Like, Wikipedia and Twitter in the past, under Jack Dorsey, who I'm no fan of, let's be real, have been able to successfully sue the Turkish government. So the idea that Elon Musk is like a free speech defender and that's why he fucking capitulated to Turkish interests is ridiculous. Yeah, he's a fucking piece of shit. Anyway. Sence ne olur ikinci tur? Oğlum ne olacağını gördün zaten. Birinci turda gördük zaten. Ne olacak? Daha mı iyi olacak Kılıçdaroğlu için 28'den önce? Yapmayın etmeyin abi. There's a lot of copium and a lot of hopium running around on the internet. A lot of people are saying that there was like election interference or like some fuckery going on. Sandıkta yalanlar. And that's fair. That does happen regularly around every election cycle. I unfortunately have no method of parsing through what is fake and what is real, and neither do the Turkish people that literally live inside of Turkey, unfortunately. And when you don't have like an effective media apparatus that is rid of like any sort of serious bias, the nope, he removed the cabinet names. Oh, we talked about that already. I love using that word to describe Turkish politics as it was originally coined during the Crimean War by the British who came to help the Ottomans against Russia. It is addition to the religious tinge makes it perfect. Yeah. What is this? Like Marmara yeni kapı istasyonunda bir genç oh, come on. Don't show me that. Don't show me that. That was that like the youth are it's sad. It's a sad state of affairs. It's like people killing themselves now because of the result of this election. Exit and press charges after anything that threatens my life, relationships, and rights. Okay. Ban. I don't know what you're talking about. We can get it sorted out. On your own? Not only the Turkish media, but also regionally many Eastern news, such as Al Jazeera's coverage, has been pretty pro-Erdogan. Boncuk, thank you for the 20 gift subs. Listen, there's a reason for that, because like Erdogan is stability. And Erdogan has already like very effectively you know, placed himself at the helm for all of these years. So for many people in the region, especially like their media is effectively controlled by their own state interests as well. They see him as like an Islamist. They see him as, especially on his foreign policy, they see him as like anti-Western imperialist. You know what I mean? Now that's not true, obviously, but it doesn't fucking matter. And ultimately, a lot of people want to vote against him because domestically, he's a fucking gigantic, corrupt, monstrous piece of shit who is actually also very religiously repressive. He's awful. Like, people, I used to compare Trump to Erdogan in the sense that, like, Trump was a wannabe Erdogan. Erdogan is the archetype. You know, Vladimir Putin and Erdogan are very similar to one another in many respects. And there's not really much you can do to take these guys down. You know what I mean? Because if you put Trump instead of Erdogan, the result will be the same probably. I mean, the thing is, Erdogan has a shitload more power and a shitload more leeway, probably a lot smarter than Donald Trump too. Like, you don't speak about people like Vladimir Putin or Erdogan in the same terms that you do about like the comically stupid fucking American presidents. Like, George W. Bush is a puppet. Trump is a puppet ultimately, right? He had some tendencies that leaned away from like corporate masters and whatever the fuck they wanted him to do. But like Erdogan, Vladimir Putin, and the like, they operate on their own speed. They don't like they're zeki değil. Amerika'dakilerden daha zeki günün sonunda. Yapmayın etmeyin oğlum. 20 senedir amına koyuyor ülkenin. Allah Allah, o kadar yani. Etrafındaki adamlarla beraber zekiler yani. Aptalca şeyler söylemeleri aslında akıllı oldukları için söylüyorlar. Hayvan olabilir ama günün sonunda adam biliyor kimi nasıl hayvanları manipüle edeceğini. Gördünüz yani, gözünüzle gördünüz. İnsanlar salak. Erdoğan got huge support even in earthquake cities. Erdoğan got huge support, especially in the areas struck by the earthquake, my friend. He got 70 to 79% support in areas that were directly, like 100,000 people were fucking murdered because of the Erdoğan regime and their consistent deregulation as they offered fat fucking contracts to their friends who were contractors, right? Who were like pro-Erdoğan contractors, as they refused to regulate these areas. These people lied to the public when they built these fucking houses, and they butchered them. They butchered hundreds of thousands of people. And then the surviving people, They licked their fucking wounds, okay? They looked around and they mourned the losses of their friends, and then they fucking turned around and voted for Recep Tayyip Erdoğan. Like, fucking 79%, man. You will never understand that. This is why I always would say, this is why I always say, like, one aspect that's oftentimes not talked about in a country like Turkey is that Recep Tayyip Erdoğan is more popular than American presidents are in America, okay? Like, that's something you got to remember. Like, this motherfucker, for all of his, like, horrifying nonsense and all of his fuckery in the media, has still been able to captivate 51% of the population consistently, whether it be a coalition that he builds with the Nationalist Party or not. Ultimately, he's been able to do this for like 2 decades, almost 3 decades now. And people don't understand it. Like, they think, people in America don't understand it. How much of it is anti-NATO stance? Yeah, that's a laughable fucking notion, okay? If you think Turkish people give a fuck about NATO, I don't know what to tell you. I've seen that coverage in America, okay? I saw that coverage in America where people are like, this is, the opposition leader is going to be pro-NATO. The opposition leader is going to be more pro-NATO. It's like, bro, no one cares. Are you joking? I'm not particularly fond of the Social Democratic Coalition either, but it doesn't fucking matter. You just want someone who is going to be, like, at least marginally less corrupt, okay? That's the main goal for Turkish people that go out and vote. The ones that vote against Recep Tayyip Erdoğan, they're voting for someone who is just marginally, just a little bit less corrupt, please. Like, please, just, we're paying these fucking taxes, just, like, give us back something in return, and don't fucking pocket it for your sons and your daughters and your fucking, wife and your family immediately. No one gives a fuck about NATO, dude. What the fuck? No one's even thinking about fucking NATO. Yeah, someone in the chat said, Abi ne NATO'su ya? Ekmek 8 lira. Exactly. Bread is 8 lira. What fucking NATO are you talking about? You think motherfuckers care about NATO? They got no future, dog. Every aspect of their life is like riddled with, mini tyrants that are corrupt, leading all the way up to the fucking, major leagues. Yeterince pahalı değilmiş demek ki. Evet amına koyayım. Daha sana pahalı ama demek ki diğer taraflarda pahalı değil yeterince. The economy is so bad, but people still vote for Erdoğan for them, so it does not even matter. Yeah, because he's like a cultist, dude. It's like Trump supporters. Trump could literally be like, I hate all of you. I hope you fucking die in Alabama, and they will still vote for him. Okay? They're like, that's my leader. I love him. Okay? That's it. And the worst thing that could have fucking happened, and I will never forgive America for this, was the coup d'etat that occurred in Turkey. Because this result probably would have been produced at least fucking, I don't know. This result this time around, this election cycle would have been an actual dub. Because this current result that you saw, where his this is the lowest he's ever had in popularity, not making it through the fucking first round of the election, going to a runoff. This result would have been the result last time around. But then the fucking coup happened. And when the coup happened, he solidified his support so much so that he was able to put a referendum together. And in 2018, change the fucking constitution of the country from a parliamentary structure to a fucking presidential one. So it's more of a cult than fear vote? Yeah, no, it is. It is a cult vote. Abi amcamın oğlu aşıdan 100 kilodan 60 kiloya düştü. Hala Erdoğan'a vermeye devam ediyor. You can't put all the blame on the populace, bro. First of all, I've already described to you what some of the major problems are as far as like the media is completely fucking under Erdogan's thumb. There's no valid opposition. Bro, I gave you guys what happened here. Okay, let's just start from the top before we get to like the American the American process. Let's take a look. So, Turkey election, your guide to how the electoral system works. There are more than 64 million eligible voters in Turkey, including the close to 5 million first-time voters. Okay? More than 64 million people are eligible to vote in Turkey's presidential and parliamentary elections on May 14th, with Recep Tayyip Erdoğan facing his toughest test in 20 years. Every 5 years, there's a parliamentary and a presidential election. So that's what's going on right now. Here's everything you need to know about how the electoral system works. So Turkey used to have a parliamentary system. They transitioned to a presidential system in July 2018, a month after Erdoğan won the presidential election. How did they do that? Well, there was a martial law instituted in the immediate aftermath of the coup d'etat that had happened the year prior, and then there was a referendum vote held. Okay, the powers of the president were broadened after a 2017 referendum approving the change to an executive presidency. So just understand that. Originally, it was a parliamentary system, and the presidential the role of the president was like non-existent. Basically, the president was a symbolic figurehead. He was like the guy that you send overseas, not the one who is like dealing with domestic and foreign policy directly. The party leader would be the one that head the parliament. It would be the person who was the actual person who was like in charge. Now, of course, like the prime minister was the one in charge, right? So that was also Erdoğan at a certain point. So he swapped all of the powers of the presidency and then kept running the country. He was always running the AKP, the party that he's the leader of since AKP came to power. But he very openly was doing it now, right, as the president. The post of the prime minister was abolished, and the president also became the head of government. In the new system, voters elect the president directly. So how does the voting work in the Turkish elections? Turkey transition, we already mentioned that. They vote for a party, and they vote for the president directly now. Citizens vote for party lists under proportional representation rather than the candidates. 600 members to be a part of the parliament. A party needs to gain 7% of the vote or be a part of an alliance that does. Okay? You first vote for the president, and then you secondly vote for the party. You citizens vote for a candidate, and for the president to become the president, the vote needs at least 50% of the presidential votes are needed to secure the position. Erdoğan fell short of the 50%. That's why there's going to be a runoff. Okay? Less than 50% of votes in a runoff between the two top scoring candidates will be had as well. At least 50% of presidential votes are needed to secure the position, and then less than 50% of votes result in a runoff between the two top scoring candidates. So it's going to be a runoff on the 28th. Okay? A second round of elections between Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, the leader of the opposition coalition, and Erdoğan, who has his own little coalition as well. Okay? Now, everyone was incredibly confident and I would say more confident than I have seen people on the ground leading up to this election that Erdoğan was not going to win, and that Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu was actually going to win with a 51% majority vote. So, elections are held. every 5 years, like I said. The 2023 polls, initially scheduled for June 18, were brought forward May 14th. So, for the record, one other thing that I have to mention, by the way, is that polling results in Turkey are so fraudulent. Okay? I know this completely. Like, you look at like actual polls in Turkey, it's completely broken. Okay? It is a completely fraudulent industry, even more so than polling in America. Okay? And in those polls, it looked like, Kılıçdaroğlu was fucking slapping ass cheeks, crushing ass. Erdoğan's own poll showed Erdoğan crushing ass cheeks and slapping ass. Turns out the truth was somewhere in the middle, but like with Erdoğan crushing more ass cheeks than Kılıçdaroğlu's coalition. Okay? Who can run for president? A potential candidate must be a Turkish citizen, at least 40 years old, and have a bachelor's degree. Candidates are nominated by parties that received at least 5% of votes in the previous parliamentary polls or have 20 seats in parliament. A presidential hopeful could also seek a nomination by collecting 100,000 signatures of support from citizens. How does a presidential candidate win? A candidate needs more than 50% of votes in the first round to win outright. If no one crosses it, the top two candidates will go head-to-head in a runoff 2 weeks later. This year's vote is set for May 28th. How do parliamentary elections work? I don't know how Erdoğan's degree situation works. I think does he have a bachelor's degree? I don't know. Anyway. Bunu neden okuyorsun ki? Hem diploması yok hem üçüncü kez aday oluyor. Anayasa umurunda değil. Yeah. Well, it's it doesn't matter. Erdoğan can do whatever the fuck he wants. Okay. So, how do the parliamentary elections work? The current parliament has 600 seats. Turks vote for a party list as opposed to the candidates. To enter a parliament, a party needs 7% of the vote. Or to be an alliance that does, voters will choose a new parliament president on May 14th. They did, and Erdoğan actually slapped ass cheeks there too. This is what the alliance looked like before this election cycle. The People's Alliance, AKP. Why the fuck is Al Jazeera writing AK Parti? By the way, bunlar Katar'da ama AK Parti yazıyorlar amına koyayım. Lan sanki İnanılmaz yani. Ulan Katar'dasın, sana ne lan? Eşşol eşek. Niye AK Parti yazıyorsun amına koyayım? AKP yaz. Orospu çocuğu. This is a small but I guess significant point of contention. AK Party means pure party. Okay? That's how they branded themselves. It's supposed to be AKP, but they called themselves AK Parti. So you can kind of tell if someone is in support of AKP by the way that they describe the party. And if they say AK Parti, that's like they're kind of, they must be a fan. Okay? Anyway, you have the Labor and Freedom Alliance, HDP, TIP, the Communists and the Kurds. You have the coalition, the opposition coalition, which is İYİ, which is a cutout from MHP. DP, DEVA, SP, and CHP is like the main one, the Social Democratic Party. And then you have some others. Elections for the 600 members of the National Assembly, as the Turkish parliament is known, are carried out through a system of proportional representation. So Turks vote for party lists rather than the candidates, and the seat members correspond to votes cast per party rather than alliances. Okay? The 600 members represent 87 electoral districts in 81 provinces. Electoral districts are allocated parliamentary seats in proportion to their population. To enter parliament, a party needs to get 7% of the vote or be part of an alliance that does. Candidates must be at least 18 years old. To obtain a parliamentary majority, a party or alliance must hold more than half or 301 of these seats. The current parliament before the election was 285 seats. The far-right ultra-nationalist MHP, Milliyetçi Hareket Partisi, the Hareket Party, nationalist movement, the ones that NATO, beefed up and put in power, who was doing far-right terror in the country back in the day during the Cold War. They have 48. They are a major, they are the largest ally to Erdoğan's Adalet ve Kalkınma Partisi, which is the Justice and Development Party. And then the main opposition, center-left Cumhuriyet Halk Parti, which is the Republican People's Party, the Social Democratic one, has 134 MPs. And the center-right ally, İYİ Parti, which is a cutout from the MHP originally, has 36. And the pro-Kurdish Halkların Democratic Party, the People's Democratic Party, HDP, which also happens to be my initials as well, has 56 lawmakers. So in April 2022, the election threshold was reduced from 10% to 7%. A law changed the way seats are distributed among members of the party alliance. Parliamentary seats were previously allocated according to total votes received by an alliance. Now the seats will be allocated according to the votes that a party receives individually. Alliances are therefore used so that parties can surpass the election threshold. This also pits parties within an alliance against one another. A lot of this stuff is pretty basic in a multi-party system. America is a two-party system with like some other parties on the side, but they're like laughed out of the room for the most part. But the reason why there's this is what happens. Like, it's supposed to be more representational. It's supposed to give you like a diversity of ideas. Obviously, there's still different ways of coalition forming and numerous different ways of basically creating opportunities for gridlock. Voting for Erdoğan can also be described as working for a minimum wage, but act delighted when seeing a TOG, a brand new Turkish electric car, for the record. It is an EV. Forgetting the fact that you won't be able to buy even his tires, and it wouldn't do any effect to your economic situation rather than making you feel even poorer. Pretty much. I think there's also one other component to this that like a lot of people in the West don't know about, and even people in Turkey will probably regard in a more reactionary perspective, which is that Erdoğan juices the fucking country. He steals a lot of money, but he also gives a lot of cash to underdeveloped parts of the country. He doesn't actually engage in like even development in the same way that like Xi Jinping does, for example. He gives them a lot of cash though. There is a dramatic amount of there is a tremendous amount of welfare, but also on top of that, there is very uneven development, but also not great development in areas that are in desperate need of development, but ones that are basically aesthetic. The example I can show you is basically, for example, taking the fucking earthquake funds and like building roads that got eviscerated by the earthquake, right? You realize Turkey wouldn't have been what it is today without someone like Erdoğan? What? Tog, thank you, Erdoğan. Erdoğan built this country. RT is the reason Turkey even has a leg to stand on today. You realize Turkey wouldn't have been what it is today without someone like Erdoğan? Yeah, no, totally, man. Bro, you're joking, right? Like, are you LARPing as like a fucking weirdo? Reis, he didn't wait to declare a state of emergency. Hasan, reis, RTE, reis. Hasanabi birçok kişiyi kandırmış hali hazırda. Ne söyleyeyim onlara bir Müslüman olarak? Hasan, what can we tell other Muslims? Because, man, they've been so gullible about this. There ain't no fucking way this dude is like been in here for 8 months and he's like legitimately a fucking Recep Tayyip Erdoğan supporter, right? Koyun. I wonder if he is also joining us from Germany. Might be Aussie. Australian Turk, maybe? I mean, a lot of bad shit's happening in Turkey. Maybe he's right. Would have been better without. Recep Tayyip Erdoğan established himself in securitarian politics. Kılıçdaroğlu was able to get away from the elitist politics traditionally associated with the CHP. Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu constantly insisted on talking about the economy without going on culture wars, yet Erdoğan prevailed by scaring people with the usual HDP equals PKK, and HDP supports Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, and his military hardware porn overwhelmed economy concerns for his supporters. Recep Tayyip Erdoğan lost votes and seats, but to his right. Yeah, the economy is great in Turkey. Thank God for Recep Tayyip Erdoğan. Allah'ım çok mutluyuz yani. Yeah, he's right. Turkey wouldn't be in the fucking dire economic situation that it's in without Recep Tayyip Erdoğan, so he's right. Like literally. But hey, it's not dissimilar. Falan değilsin abi. Doğru söyle. Kıskanıyorsunuz biliyoruz. Ahaha. Yeah. Why did the German Turks always vote Erdoğan? I don't understand it. Hiç anlamadım. I've told you this before. Çünkü Antalya'ya geldikleri zaman Euro çok daha güçlü Türk lirasından. Amına bile koyuyorlar. Anlamıyorlar ki Almanya'da ağzına sıçıyor Almanlar. Ondan sonra o ağızlarına sıçtığı zaman Almanlar onlar daha böyle kendi kendilerine komünite yaratıyorlar. Ondan sonra o komünitelerde bayağı sağcılar yani ağır sağcılar. Sonra Türkiye'ye geliyorlar. Kral gibi yaşıyorlar bir 2 ay 3 ay. Ondan sonra siktir olup geri gidiyorlar. Almanya'da yaşıyorlar amına koyayım. O yüzden siklerinde bile değil Türkiye'nin ekonomisi. Türkiye'nin ekonomisi ne kadar kötüyse onlar için o kadar iyi. Bundan dolayı %70'i gidiyor Almanya'daki Türklerin hepsi gidiyor Erdoğan'a oy veriyor reis diye. Hem Müslüman hem ağır yani şeyciler, ağır İslamcılar. Ondan sonra bir de aynı zamanda amına koyuyorlar Türkiye'nin ekonomisinin. Onlar için onları sikine değil ki. That's it. That's the reason. The reason why a lot of German Turks, and this is a major diaspora, so like it is actually significant. German Turks vote for AKP because they want to live like kings in Turkey with their euros. Exactly. They don't live in the shitty economy in Turkey, so they don't give a fuck. They don't care. They live in Germany. They only experience Turkey as tourists. And the euro is way stronger than the fucking Turkish lira. So when they come back to Turkey, they only see it as like a travel destination where their money is more powerful. That is wrong. Else all diaspora would vote for AKP. UK and USA voted anti-Erdogan. Yes, there's also a difference. There's a major difference there that the German diaspora, and I just already talked about it, is significantly more powerful and has a sense of community, okay? And that community revolves around like how they get shit on by Germans, the white Germans at least, okay? So in that, where they feel like they've been ousted from like normal German public life because of all the anti-Muslim sentiment expressed towards Turks, the German form of racism that gets that gets thrown around a lot against Turkish people there. Their sense of community revolves around being like that chastising forms a stronger bond with like being whatever, like, pro Tayyip Turk, because they see Tayyip as like shitting on the German government. When you get pushed away from the rest of public life, you end up holding on to your community. And if your community is built around like being, being very right-wing and Muslim, right? Then that's what's going to happen. And also, those who voted for AKP in Germany vote for leftist parties in Germany. Yeah, that's the funniest part. But Also, German Turkeys are mostly third, even fourth generation immigrants. Most of them don't have an idea about what's going on. Yeah. The reason is because the German diaspora initially came from Turkish immigrants from Anatolia who were much more conservative and religious compared to like the USA and Canada, which was more university grads and educated Turks that went there for high paying jobs who were more secular and modern. That too. But ultimately, it's a reactionary community development that was built out of necessity and built for protection, and it's centered around mosques, and it's centered around their way of existing within Islam. That's part of the reason why I have a lot of German Turks who are in here who are fans of mine, because I do routinely defend the rights of Muslims in the Western world. So they come in here and they're like, oh, this guy's spitting a lot of truth. I like what he's saying. So then they come in here, and then when they hear what I have to say about fucking Erdoğan and Islamists in Turkey, they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa, hold up. What the fuck? That's how you get to that chatter who's an 8-month subscriber who likes everything I have to say about defending, Muslims existing in the Western world in peace without any kind of racial animosity launched towards them. But they don't realize that when it comes to domestic policy in Turkey, I have a very dramatically different attitude. It's still the same principles, but I just don't understand why it's unacceptable to support Erdoğan and AKP when they put Western liberal democracies to shame. See, exactly. This is exactly what I said. Look, there you go. He thinks that Recep Tayyip Erdoğan is speaking truth to power against Western imperialists. Okay, that's what they all think. They see the headlines in Germany about how he's fucking sticking it to Merkel, and then they go, oh, that's great, because what Merkel represents, or what the German politics represents for them, is a shitload of hatred. They put Western liberal democracies to shame comparing the social, economic, infrastructural progress Turkey has seen in the past 20 years. I say this as a leftist Turk. It's not like the CHP is any less authoritarian. They literally oppressed Turkish society for half its existence. I voted for Erdoğan because what is the alternative there? What the fuck? You are not a leftist if you voted for Erdoğan. That's insane. Turkey's social, economic, and infrastructural progress is so funny because it's all you saw the infrastructural progress during that fucking that earthquake. That's the infrastructural progress that Turkey made. Fucking cardboard cutout buildings, deregulation, just uneven development. Development for the sake of making developers money and not necessarily for actual housing for people. All of that stuff is aesthetically speaking, that stuff plays well to the broader voter public, like even this guy who considers himself to be a leftist. Anyway, infrastructure on AKP regime is mainly roads and mosques, no trains, no proper housing extensions, etc. Yeah. I don't understand how you look at the current situation that is the Turkish economy and think shit is good. Abi işte bu kadar basit. Çok irdelemeye gerek yok. Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu Anadolu'da deccal olarak karşılanıyor. Cahil halk da oy vermiyor. Sol sağ biteli çok Orada herkes paraya bakıyor. Tayyip sağcıymış, solcuymuş, kimsenin sikine değil. Bunu kimse anlamıyor. Sahada Sarıgül gibi oy toplayan adamları yok. Teşkilatlanma zero, organizasyon sıfır ve üstüne Anadolu'nun nefreti Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu var. Tek sebep bu. I mean, that seems like an antiquated. That seems like an antiquated way of thinking, but okay. So he basically said there's no left-right coalition. Everybody just wants the money. Everyone looks at the money, and they think Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu is like the devil in Anatolia, like the less developed, more rural areas of Turkey where the villages are, where there's a fuckload of people, right? The same dynamic that you see in America within urban populations versus like developed cities and like the areas of high density that we consider the bi-coastal liberal elite versus rural areas exists in Turkey as well. So it's not all that different in that regard. I mean, the Erdoğan regime has become such a massive fucking demon with its tentacles in every part of Turkish existence. It's very hard to like describe. It's like it's resembling almost like a one-party structure. It's not entirely it's not like China where it's just the Chinese Communist Party or anything. But it is still a one-party structure. You know what I mean? Almost. It's like run by a cult. Bro, I'm a TIP member, and I was at my ballot during the count. There was 2 AKP minions at every classroom, while I was the only op at the school. This is the problem. They're like a cult. Voting is not enough anymore. They say we stand out for Muslims, and they spend billions of liras for 1,000 mosques, but only 3 to 4 people go pray sometime. What will happen after Erdoğan's gone? I mean, I don't know. I don't even know. All right, let's watch. Let's watch the American. Now that I gave you a little bit of what's going on in Turkey, let's watch the American analysis on the situation.
Have a big impact on the U.S. and its NATO allies. Voters went to the polls yesterday after a natural disaster and an economic collapse put the country's longtime leader under heavy pressure. President Erdoğan is claiming success this morning, but he's expected to face a runoff election later this month. Remy Inocencio has more on the future of this important U.S. partner.
Every fucking American outlet that I've seen on this literally has talked about NATO, which is so funny. Or like how close Erdoğan is to Russia and how Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu is going to be more pro-NATO and more anti-Russia. It's like, dog, no one cares. In Turkey, like, it is so laughable to think that that is the reason why they're voting for one person over the other. It is hilarious, okay? It is fucking hilarious. NATO'yu sikime taşağıma sürdüm. Amerikalılar gelip alsın. It's like, it's so fucking laughable, dude. It's so insanely stupid. Like, motherfuckers want to buy bread, dog. They don't give a fuck about NATO. So dumb. They give a fuck about the top of the hour ad break and how expensive it's become. Because at the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break. If you no longer want to see those ads, it's $5 a month or a free Twitch Prime subscription, okay? You can also get gifted a sub if you're lucky. Anyway, here's the 3-minute ad break now. Yeah, people are fucking committing suicide because of this election. And motherfuckers in America are like, yeah, it's the NATO. Yeah, dude, they're killing themselves because they're not because Recep Tayyip Erdoğan is not pro NATO enough. You know what I mean? Like, that's why, yeah. It's fucking such a ridiculous take.
Turks by the thousands waved flags and cheered a seemingly triumphant President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan.
Seçimlerde
We've already surpassed our closest competitor by 2.6 million votes, he said. But these party songs may be too soon. Twin earthquakes in February that killed more than 50,000 people, inflation near 2-decade highs, and a currency that's crashed against the dollar have shaken once seemingly invincible support for Erdoğan. He came to power in 2003. More people than ever now want change.
Erdoğan
Elections are not won on the balcony. Data is still coming in, said opposition candidate Kemal
Rafaga,
Kılıçdaroğlu.
thank you for the 20 gifted
He
subs.
could still be president. A record number of votes, 1.8 million, are also being counted. Critics say Erdoğan has amassed too much power as president, diluted democracy, and derailed secularism on which the country was founded. Supporters say he has brought Islam back. Both men have agreed to a runoff, if needed, held in 2 weeks. For Washington and much of Western Europe, an open secret. The end of Erdoğan would be their new Turkish delight. For CBS Mornings, Ramy Inocencio, London.
After 20 years.
Why Erdogan's fate matters to Biden and the United States. So there's also like some child marriage controversy happening in Turkey as well. I've heard this too. I like, look, I'm not super up to date with everything that's going on, I will admit, but I have heard the child marriage shit too. For example, where is it? What the fuck? What is this? I heard that there is like child bride advocacy happening in the Turkish parliament, or like some people that made it into in through the AKP coalition have been you know, advocating for child brides and shit. Hüdapar, is that what it is? Turkey's filled with Islamic cults. Yeah. Abi meclise refahçılar ve Hizbullahçıları soktular. Ne bok yiyeceğiz biz? Şeriat gelecek ülkeye. Bunun hakkında da bir iki şey bir şey de delirmek üzereyiz. Seküler kesim olarak bir şeyler söyler misin? Al abi burada. Bu adam milletvekili oldu.
Cemaatlerin çocuk yaşta evliliklere izin vermesi konusunda neler düşünüyorsunuz?
This guy This guy just straight up said, what do you think about child marriages? Okay. So this is Hüdapar Zekeriya Yapıcıoğlu. Okay. Çok yapıcı bir adam. He is asked the question about like what his opinion is on child brides. Okay. I wonder what he's gonna say.
Yaşında çocuk, neye göre çocuk, kime göre çocuk? Şimdi bazıları
He said, started off very strong. He said, 15 years old child? Well, who's to say that that's a child? To who is this 15-year-old a child? You know what I mean? That's what he started off with.
Çocuk, kime göre çocuk? Şimdi bazıları 20 yaşındadır ama hala çocuktur. Bazısı
He said some are 20 years old, but still a child at heart.
15 yaşındadır ama olgundur. Şimdi daha
Some are 15 years old, but very mature.
önce ben hukukçuyum. Ben hukuk fakültesinde okuduğum dönemde kız çocukların 15, erkek çocukların 16 yaşında kanunen evlenmelerine imkan var.
Back in my day, 15-year-olds and 16-year-olds could legally get married, he says.
Ben hukukçuyum. Ben hukuk fakültesinde okuduğum dönemde kız çocukların 15
Ne fakültesinde okudu anlamadım. Ne diyor? Hukuk. Oh, he's saying back in my day when I was going to law school, Yarrak fakültesi, you know, people could legally get married at the age of 15 or 16.
5 erkek çocukların 16 yaşında kanunen evlenmelerine imkan vardı. Anne babaların rızası varsa evlenebiliyorlardı. Bence
As long as the parents gave consent.
eğer kişi psikolojik ve biyolojik olarak kendisini evliliğe hazır hissediyorsa,
And he thinks that if someone is psychologically and biologically ready for marriage,
eğer ebeveyni de bunu uygun görüyorsa,
and if their parents are on board with it,
bence daha erken yaşlarda evlenebilmeliler.
and people should be able to get married under the age of 18.
Şu anda genç yaşta evlendikleri için cezaevinde olan çok sayıda insan var ve
He says there are so many people in jail. This is my favorite argument, by the way. They always make it seem like there's, people that are constantly being thrown in fucking jail for being, for representing their version of like Islam, I guess. So it's the same fucking shit that right-wing Republicans say in America. It's literally identical. They're throwing us in jail, brother, for child brides, which is my right to do. Like, it's the same. This motherfucker is literally, this is our version of the yee pedophiles, okay? This is the Turkish version of the yee pedophiles. He's saying that they're throwing people in jail, brother, for wanting to express their love at the age of 15.
bu aileler parçalanmış, çok mağdur olmuş durumda.
Bazı cemaatlerin
Which is a lie, by the way, for the record. That's fucking ridiculous. He's making it seem like little children are fucking thrown in jail. I like that he also makes it seem like child brides are happening between two 15-year-olds, which is not the case, and not some motherfucker like him and a 13-year-old girl, which is the case, okay?
çocuk
Yeah. How old is a child? According to what? According to whom? Some are 15 years old, but they look mature. If a person feels ready, if his family approves, he can get married at an earlier age. So, Mike Moon advocates for the same thing.
I've heard you talk about parents' rights to raise their kids how they want. In fact, I just double checked. You voted no on making it illegal for kids to be married to adults at the age of 12 if their parents consented to it. You said actually that should be the law because it's the parents' right and the kids' right to decide what's best for them to be raped by an adult. Okay?
Do you know any kids who have been
With
married
marriage.
at age 12?
That was the law.
do you know
You
any
voted
kids-
not to change it.
Do you know any kids who have been married at age 12?
I don't need to.
I do. And guess what? They're still married.
Gentlemen,
Oh, he said that's the only successful form of marriage. It's called child brides, brother. What the fuck you mean? Bro, the arguments are the same. Conservatives are a fucking monolith. Reactionaries are a monolith, okay? The closest you can arrive at a monolithic understanding of the fucking world is like when you look at reactionary arguments, okay? It's always the fucking same, dude. It's the same. Look at that. So here's what happened, by the way. I appeal to the youth. There's someone who shamelessly is propagating you with montage content. The threshold is here. If Aleppo is there, the throne is here. Eşikçi buradadır. Halep oradaysa arşın buradadır. This is apparently Erdoğan. Cumhurbaşkanı Erdoğan bu akşam yayınlanan gençlik buluşması programında daha önce mitingde gösterdiği Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu'nun arkasında PKK yöneticisinin montaj yapıldığı videoyu gerçekmiş gibi anlattı.
Oğlu arkasına terör örgütünün başındaki adamı alıyor. Haydi diyor. O da haydi diyor. Bununkini nereye koyacaksın? Bizimkini nereye koyacaksın?
Haydi birlikte sandığa.
Haydi.
Who believes this? Oh. Oh God. Oh my God. Okay. İnanmaya geçer bunu mitingde gösterdiler. Yeah, apparently he showed this at like fucking his. This is why I'm telling you, Donald Trump is like Donald Trump. Okay. Donald Trump needs to learn a thing or two from Recep Tayyip Erdoğan, okay? Like, he needs to learn a thing or two. In the youth meeting program broadcast tonight, President Erdoğan described the video of the PKK executive behind Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, which he previously had shown at his rally, as if it were real. It was not, of course. Like Trump literally, Trump will like play fucking cat turd videos at his rallies, okay? Like, he doesn't know there's way worse ways to fucking, present your opponents. Bu montaj 30 gün boyunca 32 kanal aynı anda verdi her mitingde. Yeah, the worst part is when Erdoğan uses something like this and says like, my opponent is being backed by like the PKK or whatever. Okay? It's not just that you're using it at the rallies or the media is like fact checking it. They play it as though it is a matter of fact, non-fucking stop. They play it on every outlet. They play it on every outlet literally relentlessly over and over and over again. And that's one avenue of attack in comparison to so much more. Okay? Şu an Türkiye'de olsan terk eder miydin? I mean, ben Türkiye'de değilim ve Türkiye'ye gelmeyeceğim büyük ihtimalle. O yüzden öyle söyleyeyim yani sana. Okay. Ah. Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu kazanırsa gelirim dedim abi. Erdoğan kaybederse kimde bile değil. Kime kaybederse kaybetsin. Ama kaybederse gelirim dedim. Abi şunu izle, komik yarılırsın. Devlet Bahçeli Recep Tayyip Erdoğan hakkında yakışıksız kelimeler kullandı. Devlet Bahçeli used indecent words about Recep Tayyip Erdoğan.
Sam, Tony, Johnny, Herkel, Frank, alayı birden Türkiye'de Recep Tayyip Erdoğan'ı silmeye kalksalar başaramazlar.
What? Hayır. Ne? Ne? Ne? Oh, he literally said if all of these people got together and tried to fuck Recep Tayyip Erdoğan, they would not be able to. It's silkmeye, not the fuck. Yapmayın abi. Ne? Sikme... Ne? Wait, I gotta run it again.
Silmeye kalksalar, Recep Tayyip Erdoğan'ı silmeye kalksalar başaramazlar.
What the fuck? Yo. Okay, this is a little too much. This is like, okay. He just straight up is saying like, silkmek abi, silkelemek. Okay, I get that. It's funny because the word between like fuck and also like I guess dethrone is like very similar. But he just straight up says
Türkiye'de Recep Tayyip Erdoğan'ı silmeye kalksalar
abi sikmek mitmek demiyor abi. Açık söyleyeyim. Adam direkt olarak sikmeye dedi. Şu an Türkiye'de herkes önemli bir kesim ABD'nin Türkiye seçimleri her anını takip ettiğini düşünüyor. Sen anlatsana bir ABD'nin sikinde mi buradaki seçim? Hayır, kimsenin sikinde değil. Haskoloğlu asks, a lot of people in Turkey think that America is like paying a lot of attention to the Turkish elections. Is this true? No. Nobody in America gives an absolute shred of a fuck, a single fuck about the Turkish elections. Even the liberals are trying to generate some level of like interest about the Turkish elections. Okay? By talking about how much the Turkish elections mean to NATO. Okay? And even then, bullshit. They don't give a fuck.
Başaramazlar. Anadolu
Abi anamızı sikiyorlar abi, yardım et. Abi işte tamam mı? Bak adamı sikmeye kalksalar yapamazlar diyor. That's so fucking stupid, dude.